Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. Come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey, plus some other items and events. I'm just back from my what is now going to be an annual baseball trip. Went with a couple of sports writer buddies. I know this sounds like a joke, but a Mets fan, a Yankees fan, and a Tigers fan went into Wrigley Field. Sounds like the beginning of a joke, but it was a fun day. We had 5 home runs hit at Wrigley Field. We went to another game at Comerica Park. Both of my friends had not been there in Detroit. And then we stayed a day at my lake house, and that was a good time. Just a lot of sports talk, and everybody got away from kind of what we do for a living, but we still stayed within the realm of all that. But
Wrigley Field, that's a very historic building, right? Wrigley Field.
Yeah, and two of us had been there. I've been there several times to see baseball games, and but one of the persons was not had never been there, so it was fun for him. It really is a historic building, and there's an ambiance to it that's kind of hard to describe until you're there, and it feels vintage. And to know all the great players that have played there through the years and so forth. And Wrigley fans are fun. I mean, I loved it though. It was interesting. People may know this already, but the bleachers cover up the outfield, so home runs go into the bleachers, and then the Cub fans always throw the ball back. But I watched very carefully, and when the ball is thrown back on the stadium on a home run for the opposing team, I'm sure, and this happens, just based on the way it was done. A guy runs out and gets it, and he holds it for a while. Then he transfers it to someone else, who transfers it to another issuer, and then they go to the dugout of in this case, it was the Milwaukee Brewers, and then they gave the home run ball to the player that hit it. So, I mean, that's cool. I mean, that's part of the tradition that I never knew before, but I watched it. And I thought that, that's a kind of a neat thing. So, most of the time you hit those, you lose them because, they're going to keep them, take them home, but they throw it back, although a couple of the Cubs fans told me that some of them, depending on who the home run hitter is, they have a spare ball in their pocket. And then they just kind of make a quick switch and throw it back because they want the home run ball. So I don't know if that's true, but that's what a couple of Cubs.
That makes sense. So I can see that. Sure. Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a World Series or not, the Cubs obviously have been in one. We all know that.
You think of the money they could make on those balls, right?
Some of them for sure. So, but anyway, that was fun. And the other thing I thought was interesting in Wrigley. Well, I mean, it's starting to happen everywhere. Like if you're an adult now and you catch a foul ball, there's almost a requirement now that you give it to a little kid.
I know.
And what I found curious, because I hadn't noticed this before, and to be honest, I haven't gone to many games in recent years, the pandemic and so forth. But now when an adult catches the ball, the kids come running with an expectation that they're going to hand it. Now, what if you're just excited to catch a foul ball and you want to take it home to your grandkids or something?
And the little kid starts crying or something. I've seen some funny videos.
There's a lot of pressure on you.
I've seen some videos that are pretty funny where maybe the person that catches the ball, the adult, was kind of oblivious to what was going on around it. And they actually got in a little bit of a confrontation with the child and pulled the ball out of the child's hand. And everybody in the building's going, "What are you doing?"
I know. Yeah. But I mean, and we, the three of us were sitting around and I kind of thought, maybe the rules should be like there's a lot of players now who go and throw balls into the stands. Like they're playing catch, between innings, and then they take it and they throw it in the stands. Like, I think you should be obligated to give all of those balls to any child within 10, because the intention of that player, I think, is to give that to a kid. That's my opinion. But if you're an adult, now, like I have 5 grandkids, and I have sports fans. Like, what if I just want to take it home to my grandkids?
I know, imagine that. Oh God,
shouldn't I be able to do that?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I probably
you get some little 8-year-old staring at you though, and
saying, that's what I'm saying. I mean, my personality. I'm just going to hand it over. I'm not going to. But it's just there's pressure on you. But anyway, we're off the subject here. I really want to get in. We haven't obviously met since the big cadre shenanigans. And, on the last program, I had reported what John Shannon had said. Yep. John Shannon, for those of you who don't know, is a former league executive. He's usually wired in. He said, expect the Islanders signing later in the week of cadre. Kevin Weeks, who is also a very knowledgeable guy, and was all over it for the Islanders. There are many legitimate people who were convinced that the Islanders were going to get cadre, and that it was, if not a done deal, close to a done deal.
Yep.
Obviously, he did not go there. He went to the Calgary Flames. Again, first of all, we're going to start out. I think we really got to break this down from the Islanders' perspective, because I think it's very important. But we'll start by saying, don't you think, Tom, that Brad Treliving has done an unbelievable job of recovering from the loss?
Give him GM of the year for this coming season already. There's no question. Yeah. I thought they were in serious trouble. For him to pull it off. And really, if you look at the team now, and yes, Tkachuk is a very unique player, but so is Kadri, right? He's a very similar player. I thought for sure, man, that team's in trouble. The fans are going crazy. So for him to pull off that was fantastic. That, to me, that was just like, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to sit around and feel sorry for myself, for the team. We're going to get going again. That was excellent. He's right up there now. Yeah. I
personally think you couldn't really do better to recover than he has done. Like, he really hit it out of the park. Anybody who wants to make the case, I've seen people make the case that maybe they're better now. Yeah. I don't really buy that, but I'm okay if you want to make that case, because that's how good he's done in doing that. The problem.
So let's say, he lost Gaudreau, Tkachuk,
Monahan.
Who's that?
Monahan,
that's right. And a first round pick did he trade a first round pick to Montreal?
He did, but he got that back. So really what's happened is this. He's lost those three players. Right. He's got a defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar, which filled the hole. Yep. They had a hole. They needed a defenseman. They filled the hole. And then they've got a Cole Schwint, I think his name is. Okay. He is a, like a B prospect. Most of the people that I've talked to who know about him said he will play in the league. He'll be a third liner, but he's going to play in the league. So, they've gotten back all of those assets. Huberdeau, the player who's going to play in the league, and then they gave up those three. But they got a first-round pick back in the Tkachuk trade, but they traded that to Montreal to get them to take Monahan, a player they really were. They'd used him up. Like they weren't. They didn't want him around anymore. Yeah. Like, he was not.
Why? I know Montreal gets the first round pick. I understand that part of it, but you're taking on a player that some people kind of question where he's at in his career right now, right?
Yeah, but you're rebuilding, so it doesn't matter. Like, he can play. Yeah. There's no denying Monahan can play. He just hasn't lived up to expectation. Yeah. He could be a candidate to be on the Tom Laidlaw list.
I don't view him as like, with Eichel. I just think his talent is so out of this world that he should be better than he is. With Monahan, I guess to a lesser extent, he might be on that list.
A candidate. I'm not putting him on. That's your call. But
honorable mention.
Yeah. So he could put on there. But anyway, I like this deal. I think the only negative here, and it really needs to be brought up, because Huberdeau and Gaudreau are similar players. Like, maybe you like Huberdeau, maybe I like Gaudreau. It doesn't really matter. But I think they're in the same ballpark in terms of offensive production. As you said, Tkachuk is a very unique player, a goal scorer, and he's got that physical presence. Although I think he has to sacrifice some of that physical presence to get to be that top goal scorer. Yep. I think if he was a little more aggressive, or as aggressive as he was when he started, he wouldn't score as many goals. That's just my thought on it. However, and Kadri, we know what he can do. He's one of the better second line centers. They're much better at center now, Calgary is, than they were before. You got Lindholm and him,
absolutely,
and so forth. However, the thing that's lost a little bit, we just don't talk about it too much. Kadri is 32 years old. Yeah. And Tkachuk was 24.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that. That's true.
Yeah. So they've lost 8 years. Now, Huberdeau and Gaudreau are within a year of each other.
Right. Yep.
So anyway, they have lost a little in that regard. But, they lost Bite. They got Bite back in Kadri. So anyway,
they lost points in Gaudreau, and they got points back in Hugo. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no. So Treliving did an unbelievable deal, as we've established. So let's move the Islanders, which I think will be more fun.
Yeah.
Lou Lamoriello, both you and I, high respect for how he conducts himself. I think what's always lost on people is that he's a player's general manager. He talks to his players. He knows about them. He cares about them. All that stuff, which you don't think. You just see Lamoriello as a gruff person.
Yeah.
But this summer, he's done nothing, Tom.
No. Nothing at the trade deadline either. He still pat with a team that didn't play very well at the start of the season. Yes, they were out of the rebuilding and all that kind of stuff, but they're an older team. They remain now. They're older than they were at the start of the season. So I agree with you. I listen. I believe, like you say with John Shannon, a very well respected guy. Kevin Weeks the same way. So when those guys said that the Islanders were going to get Kadri, I kind of think, here's my theory, and I'd like to hear what you think. I kind of think that, Islanders thought they were going to get Kadri. They thought they had a deal done. And Calgary, who Kadri says has been in it since day one, Calgary then said that they heard that the Islanders were going to get him. They said, no, we're going to get him. And they stepped in, kind of interceded, and gave him maybe more of a contract than he was going to get from the Islanders. That's my speculation.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard rumblings that the Islanders was not a 7-year deal. I don't know if that's true. Don't have any idea.
Could be. But it makes sense. Like from an age standpoint, Kadri's probably saying, "I want 7 years." Islanders aren't giving him. Maybe they give him 5 or 6 years because, like you said, age. But then all of a sudden, Calgary steps up and offers 7 years, and Kadri says, "Okay, right, I'm taking it."
Yeah. But I think now Lou Lamoriello is under pressure to get something done now.
But what can he do? What are his assets that he can trade? I guess he's got.
I know that he's in a bad spot. He's in a bad spot. And what's available?
Yeah, I know. Has he got cap space, sir?
Well, when it all breaks down, he won't have much. So, but I think he's got to do something like sign Phil Kessel. Now, I know people are going to go, well, that's not much. But you know what? Kessel could still play. He's been a 50-point player for 4 years in a row. He was on a horrible team, and he got 52 points last year. I mean, he may look like an insurance salesman, but he can play hockey. He knows how to create offense. He's, 52 points. That's significant in the NHL.
And I hear you, and I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just that Lou Lamoriello, like you said, hasn't done anything yet. And then if he does that, then that's the only thing he does.
Well, I mean, you got to start somewhere.
I know. No, I agree with you. I agree with you totally.
Yeah. I mean, it's just. Yeah, I don't know where else he's going to go. I mean, you could does he get involved in the Chychrun? He doesn't really have the assets to throw back. Would he give up 2 first-round picks?
And there's going to be some teams as the season goes on that are going to be wanting to move people to create some cap space, but that really does fit for him because if he doesn't have cap space, then like if it's some $5 or $6 million guy the team wants to move, then he doesn't have the cap space to do that, right? So I guess maybe he hopes that somebody gets hurt during the year, like it's happened, and then they get cap space because of that. I hate to say it that way, you don't want somebody getting hurt.
Well, let's throw. Let me give a pie in the sky thinking.
Okay.
If you want to be Mr. Optimistic for the Islanders, do you tell yourself, could you convince yourself, persuade yourself that Sorokin is going to take a leap in his goaltending that will make him, not Shesterkin, not Vasilevsky, the best goalie in the league? He's got that kind of talent. We know.
That's what I thought when he first came in. That's what he was going to be. It's hard to tell because the team's been so well.
I mean, he's already up there though. So
that's true.
Very good. So.
But then what do they have though? I mean, the guys they're all older guys. I mean, Barzal's there. They don't have. I guess what's the captain's name? It's awful. I can't remember the captain's name.
Lee.
They don't have. What's that?
Lee.
Yeah. I just look at that team and it's just listen. I think there's a lot of character there, like Parise and all those kind of guys. But you just wonder is there enough goal scoring? But like I said, if the goaltending is good enough, then who knows, right?
Depending where Brock Nelson plays, like their center situation is not horrible. If Brock Nelson plays center, you've got but. Those are 2 really good forwards. I don't think Brock Nelson gets enough credit.
You do kind of wonder. And like you said before, we both think the world of Lou Lamoriello, the general manager there. But he probably was in. You'd think he was in on Gaudreau, and then obviously we know he was. We think he was in on it on Kadri as well. If he doesn't get either one of those guys that he wants, that's not the Lou Lamoriello way. Usually he gets what he wants, right? I mean, it's not always, but
Yeah, it feels like they should score more anyway. You know, when you add in Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, Barzell, you know, they have a bunch of guys that can score. I mean, do we think now that Kiefer Bellows is never going to be the scorer that they hoped he would be? I mean, he's been around a long time, and he really is not, you know, into being that guy.
Or our reporter here, or one of our reporters, they have $11 million in cap space. Rick says.
Yeah, they do, but they haven't signed in Dobson and you know Romanoff and all that kind of stuff. So when it all clears, they'll probably have 3 or 4. You know, so
you see where Carey Price is saying he's probably not going to play this year at all.
Yeah. Are you hanging his jersey from the rafters?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I am too. But here's the issue, and this brings up a topic that I always like talking about. The guys that jerseys are hanging up to 4. What do they have that Carey does not?
Stanley Cups. Yeah,
and that's an interesting thing, and I think it opens up the conversation that I want to have, and I think we talked about it a little last week about. There are going to be more and more guys that don't win cups. Yeah. We got 32 teams.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen, but he's won everything else.
I know. And then when they went to the finals 2 years ago, I know that Shea Weber was playing too, but when they went to the finals, I mean, they don't get there without him. There's just no, for sure. And he's done everything else. So absolutely, it's hanging from the Raptors. But I just wonder if everybody feels that way. I would hope they would. Yeah, totally. I just think of his career, if he hadn't had some injuries and the time off he had to go get some help for himself. I mean, that career, it seems like he kind of missed some spots there, not because of his play necessarily.
Yeah.
I loved his attitude too, right? He was so calm and relaxed out there, especially playing in a city like Montreal after Patrick Waugh and all the other guys that played there. Yeah, it's good.
Well, it's interesting about retiring a jersey and all that. I guess Paul O'Neill is getting his jersey retired. And the guy I was with, there's Yankees fans, and of course they're New York centric. And there was a debate. The New York Yankees fan said, "Oh yeah, retire O'Neill," and then the Mets fan, who's also a big baseball fan, said he didn't do enough. 7 years, he won 4 World Series.
Yeah.
But my argument is retiring your number is more about is the popularity to the fan base.
Absolutely, I agree.
So it's like. We're not looking at Hall of Fame credentials. Isn't Ivan LeBray in Washington? Yeah. He was just a popular guy.
Totally, yeah. So Susan says Paul O'Neill, I think, had his number retired yesterday. I think it was too. On Facebook, it's being said that the best goalie of his generation, Carey Price, is better than Henrik.
Yeah, I like Henrik quite a bit. He's one of my favorite goalies. But when you're comparing the two, I mean, it's splitting hairs, to be honest with you. But I think you'd go with Carey. The thing that Henrik has is international success. Yeah. He won a gold medal, World Championships, Olympics. Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those arguments that there's no right answer. Yeah. They're both great. I mean, you're just splitting hairs. If Susan believes that, I'm totally. They're totally fine with that. I mean, the argument is strong either way, to be honest.
We're giving Susan an award for being the strongest New York fan with all teams. She's got a Yankees.
Yeah, but I mean, stepping aside, even if you're not a New Yorker, I think you can make a case for Henrik in that. Yeah, you can. Sure. No, I would probably lean toward Carey Price, but again, I don't think there's a right answer, and I have total respect for anybody who would say, I think it's. Henrik, King Henrik. So.
Especially here in New York, too. The way he carried himself, like you said before, is that popularity, the way he carried himself for the team, for the city. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, but I wanted to go. Steve Simmons had
go ahead.
Let me just finish up the goalie thing here. Yep. Steve Simmons had an interesting social media comment regarding that with if Carey Price is leaving and there's talk that he may be done. Where is Canada now in goaltending with international hockey? If you're projecting ahead now to 2024, the Olympics, they've always had a future Hall of Famer in that. And now is Jordan Bennington their best guy? like who is Canada's goalie? Darcy Kemper, is he in that mix? You know, like is it going to be Hart? Like who is Canada's? You know,
I
great.
never thought of that. That's a great point.
I mean, it's a great. You know, Marc-Andre Fleury is 37 years old.
So he's probably the best goalie right now for Canada. But like you say, it's 37. So that's
like I don't think he's gonna. I don't think we're gonna have a 40-year-old Fleury in that. You know. So I don't know, but I thought it was an interesting point that, you know, like, you know, Russia has got Vasilevsky.
Who are you gonna play? That's an interesting point. So both those guys on the team, decide who's gonna play. I mean, you can't go wrong either way, right?
Well, and you know the Americans have John Gibson, they got Hellebuck, but they also have Spencer Knight coming up. He could be the guy, or it could be Thatcher Demko. You know, who's, you know, in 2 years he could be America's best goalie.
Love that name too, Thatcher Demko.
Yeah, I do, and I do too. And you know what, John Gibson is only like 28 or 29. Like, you know, I like John Gibson too. I some people think, well, you know, he's older. I mean, he's under 30. Yeah. You know, he's never really had a great team, but there are many seasons when his numbers are exceptional, even though his team are lousy. You know, is lousy. So anyway, I thought Steve Simmons's point was interesting. And you know, you don't quite know how it unfolds. Like Carter Hart, you don't know what's going to happen with him in Philadelphia.
Right. Speaking of goaltending, does Toronto, do they make it work with the goaltending they've got there?
Well, I don't think so. I didn't like their moves from the beginning. I didn't like the Matt Murray move. You know. Brian McClellan is a pretty good general manager, and it really feels to me that he gave up on Samsonov.
Yeah.
And if Brian McClellan has given up on him, I've got cause for pause, is how I would put it. Because, you know, he's a pretty smart GM, and he's remember going into the trade deadline, like it was so on Brian McClellan, like he just said, you know, I'm not making any moves. Just our goaltending hasn't been good enough. I just don't feel good about where my team is at. I'm going to just let it ride out. Well, and he clearly decided that he was going in a different direction. He was starting over. He wanted a redo on his goaltending. Yeah. So
Samsonov was supposed to be a pretty good goaltender too.
Yes, he was. Yeah. Now, there's many instances in pro sports of players going to different teams and, you know, having a rebirth. So perhaps they'll come to be. But I this is what I would say about it, and not everybody's going to agree with me on this. I like Edmonton's roll of the dice and getting Jack Campbell, the ex-Toronto goalie. And I like Toronto's decision to get rid of him and bring in Matt Murray. Yeah. Who, by the way, of course, let's not forget, he won cups back-to-back. But it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
He hasn't been that goalie since.
And Campbell has had some down times where he hasn't played that well, but his good times were pretty darn good, too. He was a good goaltender.
Well, if we're being honest, like after January 1st, he was a below-average goalie for Toronto last year. He was okay in the playoffs, I thought, you know, but he didn't win. He couldn't get it done.
So I hate to be Mr. Negative, but let's say the goaltending doesn't work out. And Toronto, with all their firepower, struggles a little bit and like either barely makes the playoffs or doesn't get in or gets beat in the first round again. Does Kyle Dubas, the general manager, does he survive that?
But before we get started, is Kyle Dubas the GM of Team Laidlaw Blacklist?
He might be assistant GM. I'd have to put Kelly McCrimmon as a GM.
Okay.
Right. So definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
We got to get this list done. We got to do that show someday.
We really do. We really do. Yeah. And we can get people to nominate players and you can say yay or nay, whether you put it on.
I like that. Yeah. We have to preface it to say that if any of the players watch this, and they all do, they all watch the show, that it's not a personal thing. It's just purely, about the sport. And the
it's just business, Tom.
Yeah. Just business.
It's just business. You know how much I like that phrase. Yeah. What that means is when the people say that to you is I'm going to screw you, but I don't want you to hate me for it. I don't want you to hate me for it.
Very true.
I don't mean it. It's not personal. I'm going to do something that's really going to hurt you, but it's not personal. I don't really want to do it to you. But
it's like we had Phil Esposito on the show with the Thursday show with Gresher and all the guys, and he was a GM at the time that traded me from the Rangers to the Kings. And he got into, we asked him, so why did you trade some of the guys you traded? So the guys I really wanted to get rid of, I traded them the farthest way I could. Like guys like Don Maloney, who I liked, I traded him to Hartford. And I'm going, and I said, Phil, you do realize what you're saying, right? You traded me to LA, couldn't be any farther away.
Yeah. And he said,
No, that was Phil. He didn't care.
No. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's when I think how old Phil Esposito is, that's when I realize how old I am. Like, Phil's over 80 now, right? So,
yeah, that's right. He's funny too. The guy, there's local guys here. Boomer Syerson's got a show here, a radio show in the morning, former NFL quarterback, and he's on CBS. There's a halftime show and everything. And they always, in his show, they always make fun of Phil when they do a Tampa Bay call because he's in the background. The play-by-play man is calling the play. Let's say it's a goal, and Phil's in the background like he's a cheerleader. He's cheering on everything, and they just get the biggest kick out of it. They think it's pretty funny, but he's good.
Yeah. So, anyway, getting back to the hockey way, do you? I don't know. I like Jack Campbell. Do I like him because he's a Michigan goalie? I know a lot about him, or do I just believe him? I maybe rose-colored glasses a little bit, but I still have faith in him, even though I don't think he quitted himself well in the second half of last season.
Think about goalies in the NHL now. I mean, obviously there's Vasilevsky, there's Shesterkin, but how many guys really have? Even those two guys have had some bad nights. So you're going to have some bad nights. But how many other guys do you say to yourself? We play 82 games every year. We're going to play this goalie 60 of those 82 games, and we know that 55 of those 60 games he's going to play at his top of his game. There isn't many guys around the league that you can say that about, right? I mean, most guys are saying, well, maybe we get 40 good games out of him, right?
Yeah. That's a good point to be sure. But I want to talk a little bit too about the World Junior Championships. Canada, big win. Out of that, they were supposed to win. They clearly had the best team. I'm still so bullish on Mason McTavish. I've been talking about him, as you know, on this podcast for a while. I think he's going to have an incredible rookie season. Like, he's ready. He was a man among boys out there. What a prospect the Ducks have. Now, what's interesting on that, and I wanted to use that to sort of leapfrog into this as well, The Athletic wrote a really fun piece, at least for fans, where they surveyed local fans to see how they felt about their team's management. And based on that, they did a ranking of management. And the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning, as maybe you would expect, were 1 and 2.
Right.
They both got A+. Their fans have all the faith in the world in Joe Sakic and
it's just the fans voting on this, right?
Yeah, just fans. Yeah. And Julian Brisebois in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Our good friend Steve Yzerman, whose team hasn't been in the playoffs in 6 years, third.
Oh, wow.
Third. The fan base's faith in him. And as I mentioned before, in Detroit, Steve walks on water.
That's true. Yeah, I guess his history as a player there, and then
and and again, I live here, so I see a lot of him. I know a lot about the team. Obviously, I cover that team and all that. But I think I'm able to step back and say his drafting record. I don't know how you could, he brought Vasilevsky and Kucherov and. It wasn't Hedman. Hedman was before him.
Oh, it wasn't me? Oh.
Yeah. But before, he has a great track record. And with Detroit, Moritz Seider, he was ranked much lower than Steve took him. Yeah. Lucas Raymond, home run. Simon Edmondson didn't play particularly well in this recent World Juniors, but the projection is, the 6'6" defenseman who can skate is going to play this year in the NHL. Right. So he's got all that. But what I found really curious was the fact that the Anaheim Ducks, with Pat Verbeek, who, by the way, was Steve Yzerman's right-hand man until he took that job. They worked together. They got along. Steve liked him because Pat would disagree with him. Steve doesn't like yes men. He wants to argue about things. And they didn't always agree on players. That's what Pat told me anyway. And I think Yzerman appreciated that. He liked to have that sounding board. And he has a very tight group of people that he talks about anything. Nothing leaks out. He's Lou Lamoriello Midwest.
Gotcha.
Nothing leaks up. Nothing leaks up. So we've got Pat Verbeek. And if you look at that team, I will argue that their rebuild, because they are in a rebuild, is going to, and it's not all Pat Verbeek. He inherited some players as well. But he's got Zegras and Drysdale at forwarding. Now he's got Mason McTavish. He's got a lot of good young players. Troy Terry came on last year. He's still got John Gibson, who's under 30. Sure. And it's funny, there was a lot of talk about John Gibson being traded. And John Gibson came out and said, I've never asked to be traded. I don't want to be traded. Yeah. You notice how nothing came out about the Ducks looking to trade him.
Yeah.
Because Pat Verbeek, I don't think Pat Verbeek's interested in trading John Gibson because he knows, this team is actually for a rebuilding team. There's a little bit of Ranger in them. You know what I mean? Like the Rangers rebuild didn't take very long. Now they're in it. They're contending. They're right up there with the big boys. They can run with the big dogs.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that the athletic poll really does reflect kind of where the top is in terms of the LA Kings are up there. I like the Kings. I like what they.
How about my old roommate Don Waddell, the Carolina Hurricanes? He's got to be up there pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know where I would have to look. I don't remember where it is, but I'll tell you who's dead last. Who would you think is dead last?
Oh, it's got to be McCrimmon.
No, but he's way down there. Yeah.
Who would be dead last? Hold on a second. Dead last. Who's in tough? Oh, Arizona?
Nope.
Oh. Wow.
It's a team that you think should be dead last. So once I say it, you're gonna,
who is it?
You don't like the way this team's been run. Philadelphia Flyers.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I should have got that one. Yes.
Yeah. I'll get the list up right here. If you don't mind, chat while I just call it up, and we'll talk about some of the other teams.
And that's one of those really sad cases because Chuck Fletcher is a really good guy too. I've known. I think he was actually, I can't remember. He was an assistant GM before, maybe at Pittsburgh. I can't remember his history, but it just hasn't seemed to have gone well for him. In Minnesota, it didn't seem to go well. The decisions he's made on coaches until he got Tortorella in Philadelphia, and you just keep hearing all the stories in Philly that it's become a country club and everything. So I didn't like the way he traded for the rights to Hayes, and then he kind of forced to give him a contract. He had no leverage whatsoever. The player could have walked away, so he gave him. And Hayes has had some good moments, but he gave him like 7 years, $7 million or something like that too. So.
Yeah. Okay, I just about have it here. I just need to pull it up and click on it a little bit, and then we'll be able to go over some of these teams. We'll look up, your former offensive partner Donnie Waddell, and see what he's doing.
Did he call you back? Did you try to get a hold of him for some issue?
I did, and he did call me back. We had a very nice chat. Okay, here we go. The Carolina Hurricanes were fourth before the Kings. So the fan base apparently has a lot of trust in your former roommate.
And the Rangers got to be up there pretty good too, right? With Chris Drury.
Chris Drury, although his grade is not as high as I would have given him. The Ranger fan base sees him at 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th in the league. 13th in the league. And now this is shocking to me, but I don't think it's unfair. They like what Kevin Adams is doing in Buffalo. He got the same grade as Drury, B-, and he's 14th. Tree Living, this was done before the Cadre signing. Yeah. He is 15th. He got a B- as well. But there is some, there's some points rating. So they actually, he finished behind the Rangers in terms of the fan thing. Here's one that surprised me a little. The Columbus Blue Jackets are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th. They obviously the Goudreau I was signing but Pierre Dorian ranked 8th for he had a great summer. I mean, I don't think
he did too. You're right. And I was really doubting him before if he knew what he was doing, but obviously he does. Yeah, I think he's done a good job.
Yeah. And then we're starting to get down here. Like the Pittsburgh Penguins are in the bottom third. So the fan base there is not so sure about Ron Hextall.
Well, when I went to the convention that Susan Brooks put together, the Pittsburgh contingent They were very negative. Like they said, we were old before, and we just kept getting older. Like they didn't like the fact that they re-signed Letang and Malkin. So that was interesting.
Yeah. It's funny how that works. You're old, and then a year passes, and you're older. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny how that works. What about the Devils? Where were they?
The Devils are they're actually ahead of the Rangers. They're at 11. Really? So same grade, B-. So I think Tom Fitzgerald, I think people do like what he's doing there. Obviously you look and Luke Hughes, Fitzgerald took some abuse for drafting him at 3, and people thought, well, he took him because he was Jack Hughes' brother. But Luke Hughes, of course, had an unbelievable college season, and in the World Juniors, he looked fantastic again. Like, this is a premium player. He could end up, in theory, being the best of the Hughes brothers, and they're all good. They're all good, exceptional players. But he could be the best. I don't know that he will be, but he could be. So it's
are they competitive enough? Like, do they have the grit to survive?
Well, they got a lot of talent there, and he's a mover and a shaker. He's he's really worked hard to try to improve that team. And he's got 3 strikes against him before he starts because people simply don't want to play in New Jersey. So,
yeah, I know.
So it's hard, but I understand. The fan base, I think they feel like they have somebody that they think can accomplish something. Bill Guerin did real well in this poll. He is 10th as well. He's got a B, which is a better grade, obviously, than the Rangers had or the Sabres or any of those teams.
Wow, surprised Ranger fans are tough, man.
Yeah, but they are. They have high expectations, high standards.
You probably asked Susan Brooks. That's Susan's fault.
Yeah, well, but I think one of the reasons why the Rangers are a great franchise is they have high expectations. They're not looking to make the playoffs; they're looking to win the cup.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
And the Maple Leafs have a B-. So Kyle Dubas. So if the Rangers were 13, I said, so 14, 15, 16, 17, 18th, the Maple Leafs. So they're below the middle. And Seattle Kraken right above. So the faith in Ron Francis is still strong in Seattle. So I'm a little surprised at that because I didn't like their expansion draft. But
yeah, and I know they were behind the 8 ball compared to Vegas. Vegas was
right.
Kind of gave
but
up too
we knew that was going to happen because the other GMs went to school and they said never again. We're not going to give up that much to protect one player. We'll just lose the player. And then I just didn't know. It didn't feel to me, and I'm sure he would argue, but it didn't feel to me that he took the right players off those teams that were available. Like a couple of them left me really scratching my head. I don't know about you, but some of them, I wondered what were they thinking.
I know.
So I just
and my feeling about the coaching thing too.
You didn't like the coach, but I do think if you're grading Ron Francis, you look at their center ice now. Now again, Shane Wright fell into their lap. Ron Francis didn't do anything, but Shane Wright, and inexplicably, in my opinion, he'd been the number 1 ranked guy for the whole time. And then all of a sudden the draft happens and Seattle, Ron Francis at 4 said, we thought it might happen. Really? You really thought that might happen? Are you just saying that to make Shane feel good?
I know. And now you're going to get us mad at the rest of the league too, right? And Shane Wright, he's got a blue burr up the saddle now.
Yeah. Well, and he's got, he got Matty Beniers going in. So the center ice of Matty Beniers, who is a Ron Francis clone almost. He's a 2-way center. And he's a really good offensive player like Ron was. And they, and they've got Shane Wright. So they got 2 number 1 centers, in my opinion. Now, they're both real young, but they're good players. So Brian McClellan comes in right there. I think that he's underrated. I don't think people give him enough credit. I think he's a very good GM. And he is right after the Maple Leafs. I don't see him as being less of a GM than Kyle Dubas or Ron Francis. I would have him up higher if I'm rating these people. But
how about Vancouver? Where's Vancouver?
Vancouver is 3 spots down. They're just below the Pittsburgh Penguins, but they're in the bottom one-third. So Jim Rutherford, so far the fan base there has been unimpressed.
Yeah, you wonder, is that it's kind of a short sample size for him, right? Based on what he did in Pittsburgh, it'd be a little bit more like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think they understand the whole Jim Rutherford program, and he's really not the GM. Although you can argue he's pulling the strings. So
Kenny Holland, Edmonton up there, is he good?
Next, Coyote. No, first the Coyotes. Coyotes are ahead of Ken Holland.
Really?
Future Hall of Famer Ken Holland.
Wow.
And oh no, he's in now, right? Didn't he get in? Yeah, Ken Holland got in. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, so he's a Hall of Famer, but he is so 32, 31, 30, 29, 22, 7.
How many Hall of Fames are you in? Like
23rd.
20,
yeah,
12, 13.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're in. He's like 23rd or 24th. Hall of Fame general manager. C+ is his grade from the fan base. They haven't been impressed.
Wow.
This surprised me a little bit, but I understand. They're just Jim Nill is paying a price for the fact that Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, are sitting there with high price salaries and not giving that kind of money. David Poile way down the list.
Wow.
He's in the bottom 8. He gets a C grade. Kevin Cheveldayoff, they don't particularly trust him in Winnipeg. Now what we're seeing here with Boston. Okay. Now Boston way down here. So there's 32, 31, 30, 29, 20, 27 for Boston.
Wow.
Lou Lamoriello, D+.
Oh.
The fan base is worried. They don't like what they see here. They're going on. Sharks, I think this is a reflection not of Mike Grier, but where they were at. Mike Grier just started, obviously. Now the bottom 3. This is Davidson in Chicago. I believe this poll was done after all the off-season moves and the draft picks they added. So I'm not so sure that Chicago feels strongly about the way the rebuild is starting and whether that's the right way to go and what they did to Taves and Kane. I mean, all those could be a factor. And then, of course, the team that you wonder what in the world they're doing, the Vegas Golden Knights with a D-, and then the Philadelphia Flyers and Chuck Fletcher at D-, and in the point value system that they did. More than 1,000 people in Philadelphia answered the survey. So more than 1,000. So
that's interesting. I think that's pretty. Well, there are the New York one, maybe there's a little off on that one, but the teams at the top and the teams at the bottom, those are pretty good choices, I think. Right?
To be honest with you, when I looked at this, I've covered the league a long time. I would have been in the ballpark on all those. I would have had some teams a little higher, like I said, Brian McCullen. I would have had the Rangers a little higher as well.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have had either of those in the top 7. I would have had the Ducks up there.
Yeah.
I would have had Rob Blake up there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you could not have Tampa Bay and Colorado as 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You can't. Steve Yzerman, I know what the faith in him in Detroit is. So I would have him.
So it's interesting. In some cases, it looks like they're going on past history as well, like particularly Steve Yzerman, right? In other cases, like Kenny Holland doesn't get any
no love for Kenny. Not what you would expect. And so it's interesting, but it's like the old historical question: are you a Madisonian or a Jeffersonian democracy? Do you believe in that the people should have the most say? Madison didn't trust the people, and Jefferson, you got to let the people make all the decisions. Well,
see, what I like doing the show with you? There's a lot of reasons, but I seem to learn something every show. Like I just learned something there just now.
Well, that's when the country was formed. There was a great debate about how much the people should be involved. And Madison said, you can't trust the people, because they can't make the decisions. You need the people who spend all their time thinking about it. Oh. So he wanted a more representative government. And Jefferson, no. More people involved, the better. So, and I equate that to what the fans. Okay. Oh. Sometimes people say, well, you can't trust the fans. They don't know anymore. But right here, what I would say is the fans, for the most part, here know how they feel about the management team, and it sort of reflects how the job that they've done. I think it's a pretty good poll. Like I don't think the fans really missed much here.
No, I agree. No, it was pretty close.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Jefferson and what's the other guy? Jefferson and who?
Madison. Madison. Yeah. Anyway, but we run a little late, but I think that poll was kind of fun. I hope you enjoyed it all. So the Athletic does good work. No harm in saying that. So I like that quite a bit. We hope you tune in on Wednesday. Still a lot to talk about in hockey. The training camp's right around the corner. I'm writing a lot of hockey at Detroit Hockey Now.com and also at HockeyBuzz.com.
And again, if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. Everybody have a great day. We will see you on Wednesday.